The Sentry, Fallen Son. After the death of Bob Reynolds, his remains were laid to rest in the sun, and a small group of heroes were gathered to remember their friend as he once was. The Fantastic Four, Iron Man, and some X-Men members had come to attend the Sentry's funeral, but there was no funeral ceremony held as the priest didn't show up, Scout said disheartedly. Then Mr. Fantastic tried consoling him, but Scout hasn't informed his mom yet. He doesn't have the heart. I mean, how was he supposed to tell some old lady in a nursing home that her kid had died? That's a big one. Human Torch with his sister, Invisible Woman, went to pay their respect to the deceased. Actually, it was Thor whom had ended the troubled life of Bob Reynolds after the siege on Asgard. Thor Odinson, the god of thunder, couldn't show up at his funeral, but instead he went to pay the old woman a visit and telling her about the fate of her son. As she sat down listening to her favorite, I guess. "Gone on my way, empty-hearted," she chorused. Thor came rolling in. "Hello, Mrs. Reynolds," he said. She tried remembering whom he was, and later decides to dance with him. As they both tuned to the melodious song, Thor said to her, saying, "Mrs. Reynolds, I would that this could be any other way. I have come to bring you news of your son." But we didn't get to see what occurred after that statement. His memories of how he fought the void like no other man could, what he went through that day, no one will ever understand. As the group were busy talking about the good deeds of the Sentry, Clock, his mechanical servant, was seen at the gathering. Actually, it had been instructed by IT Master to give his personal diary to Reed Richard, and was meant to read the last sentence on page 19, so he'd understand what it's meant for. As Clock moved away, "I will rebuild the watchtower in anticipation of my master's return," he said. It seems the Sentry would be resurrected or something. The robotic orb flew off, mentioning that intruders would be exterminated upon detection at Reynolds Holdings LLC, including Reed himself. As Reed went through the dairy, Scout complained about the robot, saying Bob had programmed him with some kind of fuzzy instinct. Actually, Mr. Fantastic was good at keeping secrets. He didn't disclose what's in the dairy to Scout, but Scout thought it was filled with recipe for the sausage and habanero dip he always brought to parties. He later disclosed that he lost his arm to the sausage dip, which was totally heartbreaking. Everyone said the good things they all know about Bob, and Rogue seems to be in a relationship with him. Some read notes and gave speeches, but do you know one funny thing? It was Ben, AK. The Thing. I hated him. He said it was no secret to anybody, but why does he? This was way back when they're coming back from a public appearance and ran headfirst into the wrecking crew. A lot of people were mangled in their cars, and a school bus pushed down some subway steps, and somehow he found himself in a fight against the wrecker, and he was pissed. He held him so tight that he was actually killing him, then Bob pushed him off. Seems the Thing was angry because he got punked. But that had nothing to do with it. 6 weeks later, the wrecker busted out of a shield prison in Idaho. He went to the closest town, a place called River Crossing, and he found a bus full of kindergarten kids and killed them just to prove a point. Actually, no one was above the law. Killing the wrecker would actually put a red flag to his name, and perhaps every superhero's on planet Earth. Ben was only angry because he was right. They don't get to kill the bad guys just because they kill other people. They bring them in, and the courts bring them justice. After the whole talk, Ben decided to forgive him, saying, "I never forgave the Sentry for being a better man than I am. Well, here's to you, Chief. I forgive you now." As he said this, he made a toast to his name. After the toast, Reed gave a speech. He talked about his wedding and how he was once his best man. And after his speech, they all turned to look at the sunset, paying their last respect to the man with a power of million exploding suns. If you love stories like this, follow us for more at All About Comic Books.